We're the Wildlanders Off-grid, a family homesteading in remote rural Portugal. We left our city lives behind to connect with nature and live a more sustainable lifestyle. From growing our own food to learning how to build our own tiny house. Follow our journey as we build a new life for ourselves. Welcome back to the Wildlands, and today we're on day 22 of our 40-day homesteading challenge.
And it's time to start a new project.
It's very exciting. It's only 3 years in the making. We're finally putting in our long drop compost toilet. So in the last episode, I briefly, with a lot of waffle though, explained to you how compost toilet works. And this is in situ, where it's going to be. You saw me clearing it last week. So we've done a lot of procrastinating today, haven't we? What have we been up to?
We're just trying to work out where we can put it because we've got a minimal width. It has to be 125 because that's the width of our OSB boards. So the toilet block itself has to be that size. So then we have to put posts in underneath it to hold it up, stilts. And we're trying to do it on this wall because it's a handy little terrace with a drop. So then we don't have to dig a pit and we don't have to make it on really tall stilts like some long drop toilets.
Yep.
I thought that's really handy. But the trouble with it is that the wall takes up space. So you need to put in a post and then there's a wall and then you can't have it too far that way or there won't be room.
Yep.
So we've just been looking at that.
So to refresh you on last week's video, Missy had the idea that we're going to use the 2 barrels that you see in the background. So there's an arbitrary figure because we don't know how long it's going to take to fill the 2 barrels, but we're going to have 2 toilets, aren't we, inside that we use 2 seats, yeah. So today's job is to dig holes, isn't it?
Again, remeasuring out exactly where we want to have the foundations, and then at the very back is going to be the toilet, and then at the very front, you come out the door, there'll be a little bit of what we're calling a veranda. It's not really, it's just a little bit of extra foot space, isn't it? So you can open your door. Yeah. So yeah, today is just digging 6 holes, is that right? Yeah, 3 on either side, 2 up here, 4 down there, and getting the posts cemented in because we need a couple of days for the cement set. And we do rain in about 3 days' time. So
it's the same principle as this post, which is from the old cabin build. And then we've got to get the height right, so it's a little bit lower than that. So we're going to have 1, I think we've decided 1 post either side at the top, so 2 at the top and then 4 at the back, aren't we?
That's correct.
So let's get digging. So, a protracted start because there was a lot of procrastinating about how we were going to do this and get our 6 posts all level, because obviously the joists that sit on top have all got to be structurally sound and level for the building to be straight. So what we decided was, we did what we did on the cabin, so we pilot holed this, a test piece of wood the right width, we put bolts in, and then we got this on these blocks to be level and at the right height, and then we could suck up the supports with the bolts so they're flush with the bottom of here, and then put the cement underneath the supports so the supports are cemented in and they're now level. Now we can't do anything else today because we need to wait for the cement to at least be dry enough that we can take this test one off so that we can lay the long ones that are going back to front, and then we're having 2 more posts like this, but obviously much longer at the back, and that's going to be more protracted working out. So what we're probably going to have to do is prop up this one on the blue barrels, get it level with the spirit level, and then put in the middle joist and then put in the middle supports, wait for those to set, and then remove the barrels and then go and do the last final one. So I think it's going to be multiple days to get these in and cemented. So I'm going to call that 3 hours today. So we'll keep a note, so I think we'll still achieve the 5-day toilet challenge, but we're going to have to get the uprights in first and spread that out over 3 days so the cement can dry. So it is still going to be a 5-day challenge in terms of the amount of hours that we achieve, but we'll start it properly from when these uprights are all set. Otherwise we're not going to make our 5-day deadline. So we're essentially on day 2 of the toilet build, and it's been a little bit protracted because we've had a lot of rain, haven't we? Lots and lots of rain. So our 5-day toilet challenge is going to have to pause because we've got 3, maybe 4 days of really intensive rain coming, and it's a pain having to either work through the rain like we did yesterday. We got very wet in our coats, and also the wood's all getting wet and we have to keep going in and out. So we've decided to pause it, and we had a large delivery of plants in yesterday, didn't we?
We did.
So we've got some of those to plant in the new nursery garden, so we'll take you over there later and get those planted up. And then because it's raining, we've decided to work inside. So where are we going to go?
We're going back into the shade house area where we need to put up a new shelf because we have too many books for our bookshelf. We've got about 50,000 books on permaculture, and we have a cupboard that needs some repairing, and we're going to build a new door because the mices have been getting into our pan cupboard, which is not allowed. We just got to build a door out of pallets, so that will involve some pallet stripping, and you want to put a shelf in there as well.
Yep, so it's basically, as you can see from the mess here before we start, like everywhere off-grid, because we don't have a house, we don't have enough storage space, so things tend to pile up, don't they?
Yeah, when you need to put somewhere, something somewhere that it's going to be dry,
yep,
then you have to put it on a surface. So our very minimal surfaces have gotten sky high.
Yeah, so more shelves. We're also hopefully going to try and work out how to put one behind the sofa as well.
Yeah.
And that's going to become a Lego shelf, isn't it? When we lived in a house, we collected Lego, and it's been very tempting to not buy the odd set, which is kind of ridiculous. When you're off-grid, you don't have anywhere to put it.
It was mostly Rosie's Lego sets. Rosie likes collecting them, and until her cabin is done, she's got nowhere to put them.
So let's just summarise where we've got to. So we've got our 6 uprights up, and we've got the short ones at the front and then 2 longer ones at the back, which look a little bit odd because the one on the left side, or your left, is further back than the other one. That's because there's some granite there. So we've dug big holes at the back. They've all been cemented in, haven't they?
Took 13 wheelbarrows of cement.
Yeah, it's a lot of cement. And as you'll remember from last week's video, we've got the overhang. What's that for, Missy?
The overhang, over the edge of the wall, it's so that it's a long drop. So your toilet seat is going to be roughly, I don't know, here somewhere. And then you drop your waste into the barrels that are down here.
And we're going to box that all in as part of the build, but I think that'll be in part 2 of the build.
Not going to be in 5 days.
And then where Missy's standing, there'll be like 2 doors so that we can get into the barrels as demonstrated. So we want to seal it as much as possible to minimise or avoid all fly activity. And then this front section here, if you remember from last week's video, it's the size is 125 by 125. So this front section we've added on is going to be like a little veranda, porchy thing. And that is because of the door can't open inwards because of where the toilet is, so the door has to open outwards. And we thought it would be easier if it opened on this little porch area, and then where the breeze blocks are currently left from balancing this, we'll have a couple of stairs. And I've been keeping a total of the hours so that we can see if we get the 5-day challenge completed. So
yeah, it was a real shame because we wanted to do it in 5 days. We thought Monday to Friday, and we'll work morning till night every day for 5 days, and then you'll see it going up really fast. And I thought that'd be a fun little mini challenge, but I had not considered the weather.
No.
So if it's chucking it down with rain, we really can't be out here building with wood and power tools, can we?
No. So I think it'll restart. So basically the framework, the posts is less than the first day basically. So next week we have 5 days, maybe more, where allegedly, unless the forecast changes, it's not going to rain at all. So we can resume with the exciting part of the build. So 4 solid days hopefully, and then we can get the walls up, get a door on, maybe start the toilet build inside. So that is the 5-day challenge, part 1. Part 2 is then to shingle the outside, make it look pretty, but we'll be doing that in a separate challenge, or we'll be doing that separately. Right, so let's go up top, and some tidying, some shelves going up, the cupboard sorting for the mice.
Bit of planting.
So lots more to do in our 40-day challenge. So it's all very exciting. So we're now in the shade house, and this is the area that Missy was mentioning. So these are all our books. As you can see, we've run out of space. Everything's going upwards. So we're going to put a shelf in from this diagonal here over to that one, so somewhere up here, and then we can transfer our lesser used books up to the top shelf. And then here you can just see we've got an old unit that we foraged from one of the dustbins, and the bottom shelf is broken, so things drop out, so that needs repairing. So that's the other job that Missy told us about. And then one of the important jobs for homesteading anyway is the back of this really untidy cupboard here is actually the side of the cupboard up under the kitchen unit, and that is where the mice are getting in that Missy was telling us about. So we've got to take everything out of there. That's going to be a tedious job because look at the state of it. And then we're going to shelve it out and put a door on the front, so then the mice can't get in. Plus, by having it shelved out, we'll be able to use the space more effectively. So not very exciting, but very important work on the homestead. Bit of tidying, bit of space creation, anti-mousing. So let's get on with that. Cleared out the cupboard, and she had a genius idea. So one of the places the mice would get in is this hole at the back that was for this pipe for the gas, and obviously they're coming in possibly through the big hole where there is no door. So when there's a door and that needs sealing, and Missy had a genius idea. So I've cut a hole in a piece of wood which is bigger than the pipe but smaller than a mouse, and then I'm going to put this noggins at the top, and then this bit of wood will go around the pipe. Get in that way. I don't know if I can get in this way. Off-grid life, innit? That'll do the job. I'll get out my cupboard and I'll show you. Combination of living off-grid and being an old fart. So there we go. So I don't think the mice can get through there. So that stops them there. Cupboard at that end. No other holes. There's a no. They might, like you say, they might nibble the pipe. We've already blocked a hole at the bottom. Right. So that's done. So now I'm going to put the shelf up. So we'll work with kind of being on that line. And then the last one we'll have to measure. Like so. Does it fit nicely? Lovely. All done. We go, all done. So we got the shelf in for our books. Just got to put the books back in. Next job there is to stain it so it's this kind of colour. We got the shelf in behind the camera above the sofa, which is going to be a Lego shelf I think for Rosie. And then we got the door on here. We don't have a lock for it yet, so I'm just going to screw it shut once it's full. And then we got the shelf inside and above the pots and pan area. That's all done as well. So we got it all done. It's 3 o'clock, so the time we've stained it, cleaned up, put everything away, it'll be a good day's work. So another thing crossed off the list on our 40-day challenge. Very pleased with that. Morning, it's another day in the Wildlands nursery, in our new nursery garden, and it's a really chilly day today. It's windy, it's cold, we've had monumental amounts of rain, so we're still on pause for the 5-day toilet challenge, and we're moving that, as we said earlier, to next week when the sun comes back. So today I've got some bare rooted plants to start putting the herbaceous perennials into the new nursery garden. So we've had a very large delivery, of which the majority we've potted up off camera. yesterday, but we do have some things that are going in the garden. So these are bare rooted, so they come like this, very little soil, and there's 10 in here. So I'll tell you what I've got, where we're going to put them, and for those of you that are new to the channel or new to gardening and or not familiar with our nursery garden, the idea here is that we plant perennials in the ground, allowing them to expand, and then at a later date when they're big enough we can dig up portions, split them, pot them on to sell in the nursery. A lot of plants will get much bigger in the ground as well, and also it doubles up as a secondary source of food for us, as everything we're pretty much planting is either edible or medicinal and or serves some sort of purpose in the garden, creating biomass for compost, or the bananas, multiple purposes which I've covered off before. So I'll just refresh you on where we are with our planting in the nursery garden. So first, having created the garden, we had our friend Paul over and we put up the shade structures that you can see around me at the moment, and at a later date that'll be covered in shade material and we'll have many pots on the ground of plants growing on. And then we put in our trees. We planted lots of trees, again partly to provide fruit in the future when they get bigger, but mainly and also to provide the shade canopy to give our plants underneath shade in future years when they get much bigger. And then the following week, the most exciting thing, you remember I put in 9 bananas into the ground, 8 different ones. This is an experiment so I can monitor which ones prefer or do best in our 40° centigrade summers and which ones tolerate and or do best in our -7 centigrade winter nights, which are coming up very soon. So I'll be wrapping those as well, and I'll show you how to do that in a later video. But for now, enough of my gardening waffle, let's get these in the ground. But first I'll show you what they are. So the first one is lovage. There's a single one, so I'll just open her up. Now, lovage is a herb and it gets quite big, 2 meters high. Maybe over time it might get to a sort of meter width, but for now it can be misleading because in its little bag it looks like it's a little small innocent plant and has got some new shoots. But for those of you not into gardening, perennial herbaceous perennials, irrespective of what type and how big they are, generally or almost certainly die back in the winter and go to sleep or go dormant for the winter months, which is why they're shipped bare rooted. Easy to plant in the ground at this time of year, bare rooted. You'll also note lots of supermarkets have a lot of bare rooted plants, particularly things like echinacea and hosta, because they're easy to package, less weight, less soil. So now's a great time to get bare rooted perennials in the ground. And again, don't be misled by the size of some of the roots, because they can get very big still in the spring when they bounce back to life. I've also got these new slate labels to put on my plants so that I don't lose track of what I planted, but also so at a later date when people come on garden tours they can see what we've got in the ground very easily. So yeah, lovage, and then at a later date I might put the Latin name on the back. Lovage and Bigfoot geranium, and the Bigfoot geranium, that is a ground cover plant. Keep the ground covered. Our eventual goal is to have no visible soil. So to start with, once we've planted everything up, got these in the ground, I've also got 100 strawberries, believe it or not, in this box. They need to go in the ground. They're probably full of water. They need to go in the ground too. So we'll mulch around them, but in future years as the plants get bigger, the idea is to have no visible ground other than the paths at all. Oh, and Turkish sage, that's lovely. Look at the leaves on that, different to a normal sage, another herb. It's just one of those, and they get quite big too. And then 3 Chinese rhubarbs. Really looking forward to those. Don't have any of them so far. There we go. So that's my labels. Remember to take them. Let's get planting. Right, so I've just got to decide where to plant them really. So the geranium is ground cover, doesn't get very big. The comfrey is ground cover, but gets big-ish. The lovage gets very big, so where should we put you? Put the lovage over here somewhere, like there. The Turkish sage, fairly big too. Let's put you the other side of the tree. And then the Chinese rhubarbs, moderately big, but there's 3 of them in a big clump. So that's a Chinese rhubarb, Turkish sage, And then the comfreys can just go around and about, as can the geraniums. And in my green tub, I've got a mixture of well-rotted chicken poo mixed up with compost that we've made ourselves. I'll do a bit of weeding while we're here. That's the downside of using earth that you've brought into the land. It's got weeds in it, but not too bad. Probably get the hoe down here at some point and get it out. All these ones on the border here are particularly irritating. Right, so me lovage. Let's get you near the back, I think. Put a handful of me gold in there. He's already shooting. Lovely. Handful of that round the outside. Give him a temp down. Bit more of a sprinkle of the magic. I'm not a massive fan of the way this place pack, but look at that, nice and healthy. I'll bring him a bit closer so you can see. That's the Turkish sage, look at that. And that's exactly a good example of how the nursery works. So we've got two there already. So we'll plant them separate. Does mean that we've acquired two plants, so we need another label. There we go, second label for Mr. Splitty Sage. I think we'll put him somewhere else. He can go there. Right, next is 3 Chinese rhubarbs, which will probably just be the crowns in there. Again, terrible packing. It's supposed to be an environmental place, and everything they send in plastic and cling film and all kinds of tapes. I'd much rather they use cardboard. So at least you could compost the cardboard afterwards, but hey ho. So these are just the crowns of the Riam palmatum, which is the Chinese rhubarb, similar to the rhubarb that you'd be familiar with, but generally grown as an ornamental, but actually a fabulous medicinal plant. So I'm going to do a clump of 3. Again, it will get fairly big, so I'll do them in a sort of triangle. We've got a lot of granity clay there. The bulb doesn't want to be too deep, because that's the surface crown, the little red bit. Don't know if you can see that. And I'll plant this one under the banana here, because the idea is, although the banana looks very sad at the moment because he's been blown around in the wind, the idea is that next year the bananas should get huge, and then they'll provide us with lots of shade. So that's number 2. Number 3, shall we do in between the two? Got to try and remember where I'm planting these buggers because you can't see them. I feel like Percy Thrower. Anybody remember Percy Thrower? Just showing my age. So it's like Gardener's World off-grid. There we go, 3 Chinese rhubarbs. Next, tuberous comfrey. So we've already got lots of comfrey. We didn't order this, but it was a replacement from an order last year that arrived damaged. So we have lots of comfrey in the garden already. And this is the tuberous one, it's very vigorous. So these do get quite large as well, but great ground cover. And we use them for making fertiliser tea. So they get, I don't know, the other ones in our garden are like 1/2 metre wide, 1 foot high, sometimes with the flower stalks, which come up 3 or 4 inches, and they can be beautiful purples, blues, pinks. And what you do is you cut the leaves off, big handful of them, and put them into a bucket like this, or a barrel, and then add water, wait a couple of weeks and it ferments, makes a horrible smelly liquid that you then use to water your plants, diluted it. A bit like Miracle Grow but natural, and also prolific production of leaves which are full of nitrogen, which we can then chop and take up to our new compost area up there when we have it. So I'm just going to plant them in a kind of triangle clump, sort of frontish of the border, because I've got many comfreys, so I think I'll put a different comfrey in clumps in each row. And they're quite close together, but that's okay because we want the ground to be covered. So let's put the other one, the Turkish sage is going to get big too. There's a bit of a weedy one, this one in my hand. I think it was a bonus. I think we were only supposed to have one comfrey, but it is prolific. And there we go, tuberous comfrey, done. What do we have next? Here we've got the Bigfoot geranium, which is a great ground cover and weed suppressor. It's beautiful flowers too, and has some medicinal purposes, but we just want it for ground cover. It's also vigorous, grows extremely well, it's drought tolerant, perfect for us. I think we've got 10 or more here, so I'm not quite sure. I'm thinking of putting it up the borders or up the terrace levels. How many do we actually have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that more than one? Yeah. So you can see how it spreads. Very vigorous. So I'm going to snap some of these off and spread them out because we want the ground cover. That's what we want them for. And then also, as well as the ground cover, once they've made big clumps, we will dig them up and split them and pot them on for lovely people to come to the Wildlands nursery and purchase. So yeah, I think I'll put some in the border. I'm not going to bother with any kind of fertiliser because they don't mind crappy soil. Not sure what colour the flowers these ones are, but in my mum's garden, which I gave her from one of my very first gardens, they have a purpley blue flower which is stunning, but more often than not they have a pink flower. I'm kind of hoping that they're the blue ones, but pink will do too. Imagining a whole bank of these covering this currently very weedy edge, and then what might look nice is on the other banks to maybe put different flowers so that you've got each bank with its own massive row of its own colours of flowers. So there we go. So the whole of that terrace divider on the banks, I put in about 20 or 25 of the Bigfoot geraniums. So over time that whole bank hopefully will be full of geraniums, helping keep the bank safe, the roots holding it all together, but also looking lovely. And then along the edge here I've done my 25 or so strawberries, about a foot apart, all the way to the very end. And then I've started putting in the herbaceous perennials. So I've got the Chinese rhubarb, Turkish sage and so on that you saw me plant, so that's a good result. Still plenty of space for lots more that I will plant in a future episode. So now it looks like it's about to rain, so I'm going to go back up to the shade house where Missy is putting all the books away. So that's looking absolutely stunning, so I'll show you how that looks before we leave on the new shelves. Really pleased with those. And then it's a day of editing for me. So what a fabulous week on the Wildlands.
Feels like it's been a really long week though.
It does.
Long and hard.
But it doesn't feel like only 5 days ago that we started the toilet foundation build, does it?
No, I suppose not. It's pleasing to get all the hard work done and out the way so we can move on to the fun stuff.
Absolutely is. So we've got 3 or 4 days of rain, as we've mentioned, and then after that we've got a block of sunny weather, 4 or 5 days, so then we get the toilet finished.
And maybe get a bit more planting done.
Yep.
Don't really like to do that in the rain.
We're fair weather gardeners, aren't we? So yeah, it's been a great week. So we got the foundation done, got a load of planting done, and the shelving up at the shade house is great, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, it's been one of those jobs that we've been putting off for a long time, just because it seems like a lot of upheaval to have to take everything out and put everything back afterwards, especially in the pan cupboard, the mouse cupboard.
Yeah, that was a chore. So those of you that are new, our kitchen's obviously outside, as you've seen. So we had access at the back and a hole in the side, filling up with mice. Even though we've got our wild hunter cat, still had a bit of a mouse problem, so it needed doing. And great, what a game changer that is.
Yep, the washing up wasn't fun. Had to wash up every single item that we own.
Yeah, to
kitchen
start
equipment.
fresh with a nice clean cupboard.
But it's nice, it's good now. I'm glad that it's done. And it's simple, silly things like putting up hooks to hang the pans off to give us so much extra space in the cupboard. So yeah, that's really good. It was a hard day's work, but it's done now.
And we're now 2 shelf book collecting.
Yeah, and a Lego shelf.
Yeah,
who would have thunk it?
Who would have thought? Off-grid Lego shelf. So yeah, I'm pleased with that. So we can get some more books in. Which is always exciting, and some more Lego. Yeah. So another week on the 40-day homesteading challenge is done. It's been a tough week, but a great week.
Yep. And next week it's onto the toilet. See if we can get that done before the next video's out.
Yeah, that is exciting. And I'd also, before we go, just like to say we've had a lot of new subscribers in the last couple of weeks following us on the 40-day homesteading challenge. So that's really nice to see you guys joining us. Thanks very much for your support.
And all your lovely comments.
Yeah, the comments are great, aren't they? We've had so many comments as well. So thanks so much. Really do appreciate those, and it's great answering your questions and seeing some of the chores and jobs that you're doing in your off-grid homestead or back gardens or yards and so on. Had lots of questions about bananas, so that's always exciting. So waffle aside, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next week from the Wildlands
for the next instalment of our 40-day challenge. I'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.